you might never understand what matters to you in life if you don't understand the unseen dimension of your reality. In a previous video, I spoke about how you can harness energy into the unseen dimension of your reality, which is the mental dimension, the emotional dimension, and the spiritual dimension of your reality. You know, we have always grown up to think that we are just physical beings. So most of our behaviors, our upbringing, our nurturing was just focused on the physical dimension of our reality. So we tend to live life and get to a point where we suffer certain consequences. Why? Because we didn't understand the unseen dimension of our reality. So in this video, I'm just trying to dive deeper into understanding the unseen dimension of our reality. Just as I said in the previous video, we need practices like meditation, recitation of the Quran to, one way or the other, help us harness energy into these three dimensions. I would like to talk about the states of energy that we can assume if we are able to visualize and harness energy into these states. First, let me take you back to the physics class. In physics, we were taught that there are three states of matter. That is initially, then with time, it was said that the states of matter are four. Maybe most of us are not aware of the fourth state of matter, but I'm just going to let you know about that. So the first state of matter is solid, the second is liquid, the third is gases, and then the fourth one is plasma. So if you look at the state of matter, these states of matter are actually based on the energy in them. So the solid is usually considered to be a low energy state, akin to our physical dimension. What we see around could be seen as being in the low energy state. So if we are getting used to the low energy state, that is the physical dimension, and we get stuck to it because that is how we've always seen the world. We've seen the world from the lens of it being physical. So we've never considered the other unseen dimensions. Meanwhile, the unseen dimensions of our reality takes 3/4 of our reality, or even beyond that in terms of percentages. But just to simplify the visualization, that is why I came up with 3/4 of our reality. So if you picture this, that is the mental dimension of our reality, is still unseen. But it seems like with the dimension, with that mental dimension of our reality, that is what we use to navigate the physical dimension. Even if you look at our development as human beings, from newborn babies to old aged people, you would find that there were certain changes in our development. Akin to the states of matter, solid seems to be so much of a restricted matter with low energy. So anything we see around us is static. It doesn't move, and it's more like resistant. If we are to assume that state of solid, we become resistant to the flow of life. But if you could imagine the other three states of matter, which are liquid, gas, and plasma, these are more like fluids. Instead of being solid, if we are able to assume the states of being fluid, we would be able to live life with its flow. That is to say, most of the things that we were taught as we were growing up were based on the values that mattered to the society. But it gets to a point that we get so much dogmatic about these values, and we think that these are the things that really matter to us. But if we are able to understand that is just the physical dimension of everything, so we just don't have to restrict our thinking, our routine, our everyday life to the physical dimension. If we become so restricted just as the solid, how can we imagine to make changes in our life? I'm taking you deeper to the other unseen dimension. So the unseen dimension can be akin to the fluids. So we could even say the mental dimension is the liquid, and then we can even say the emotional dimension is the gas, and we can even compare the spiritual dimension to be the plasma. So all these states, unseen states of our reality, are high energy states, which we don't see because of the high level of energy. If we are able to harness energy into this unseen dimension of our reality, you can imagine how we can impact the physical dimension. Because the physical dimension is a true state of matter, which is solid, more like a dead matter. But true life is experienced with these states, that is the mental, emotional, and the spiritual dimension. These are the dimensions that helps us to really experience life. There's this example that was given in the Quran, that is, if water, when it rains, what the rain does is it makes the earth come to life by the growth of plants. In the same way, the solid or the physical dimension is just like the earth, and the water or the rain that falls onto the earth is a fluid, which we could say that is a liquid, right? With that energy, it's able to make the earth come to life with the growth of plants. Even, let's take another metaphor. Think about the hurricane, right? The hurricane can be so powerful that any physical structure can be destroyed by that hurricane. Therefore, it tells us that if we are able to tap into this unseen dimension of ourselves by harnessing energy with the practices that align with us, we would be able to make changes in the physical dimension of reality. Now, assuming that we could assume the unseen state with so much energy, it means therefore that we won't be restricted in our thoughts. We would take every moment to think about our reality. We are able to understand the deeper meaning of life, because we live life trying to find meaning. If we are able to think through the unseen dimension of our reality, certain things that doesn't make sense on the physical realm, when we look at it from the other realm of the unseen, we will begin to understand why we do certain things in life. That tells us that this mental dimension of reality, if we are able to assume that fluidity of life or the flow of life, it gives us the sense of suggestibility, where we tend to harness certain informations that we have never thought before. Because there's so much information, just as in quantum physics, it is said that there's a quantum field full of information about our reality. This is, I could say that even in Islam perspective, there's what we call the Lawhil Mahfuz. It is a divine record, a preserved tablet, where everything that happened and everything that is happening and yet to happen is recorded by Allah or God. So when we begin to rethink about what we've been thinking about, we are able to rethink about ideas or thoughts that makes us question certain beliefs in which we find ourselves today, and kind of restricts us from looking at the worldview from a bigger perspective. That said, with our mental dimension, we wouldn't have to restrict it into the physical dimension. But if we are able to open our perspective, there are certain informations that we could tap into, right? Information of suggestibility. It takes our thoughts deeper than we expect. Understand that everything we do has already been inscribed in the preserved tablet. But unless we take time to dive deeper, there's certain information that you might have never thought before, and that is the mental dimension. And it seems like over the years in schools, in our educational system, it is only the mental dimension of reality that has been developed or nurtured. Meanwhile, the other aspect of us, which is the emotional dimension of our reality, is kind of restricted. Usually, as we grow up as children, that is when we become so much more of emotional beings. So we express our state with certain emotional behaviors like crying, like frowning, and all those stuff. Sometimes we forget this aspect of us, that's the emotional dimension of us. And as we go through the educational system or through the education of life, as we experience certain things in life, we begin to tap into our mental dimension. But imagine if we are able to align with the mental dimension and emotional dimension, then we are assuming that fluidity and flow of life. With regards to the spiritual dimension of that reality, as I said, if we are able to master this, it becomes much more easier to tap into that higher state of energy, which is the spiritual dimension. With the spiritual dimension, if we are able to holistically understand or master this unseen dimension, we are building our own mindset, not the mindset as we taught to see the physical dimension. Our mindset goes beyond just seeing the physical dimension to seeing the unseen dimension of our reality. Over the past years, we were made to understand that the mind is just, or science had made us understood that the mind is restricted to the brain. But just before that, spiritual texts have made us understood that the mind is not restricted to the brain, because you would find that in the Quran there are verses that talks about, doesn't the heart understand? That tells you that the heart, if it's in sync with the brain, it helps us in tapping into certain consciousness. Meaning the mindset could be developed. That is, if the unseen dimension of our reality is sort of nurtured, we begin to have a mindset that ties into not just cognition, perception, and thought, but into a deeper consciousness. So our meaning of life becomes much more better than the people who only focus on the physical dimension. More like they are the materialist, they have the materialist perspective of life. But we would have the non-materialist perspective of life. So understanding of life becomes much deeper. I guess we'll just stop here so that hopefully in our subsequent video we can discuss much about this. Thanks for watching.